So, yesterday, one of my favorite multiplayer games in years came out. And this still feels weird to say. It was a brand new F-Zero game. F-Zero 99, released during the Nintendo Direct yesterday, and is in the same series as games like Tetris 99. And by the way, I sincerely hope this gets a physical release like Tetris. This came with a Switch Online subscription, but you also get the physical cartridge with it too. So hopefully this game gets preserved forever, like Tetris has been. But this is radical for multiple reasons. Reason number one, at least here in the West, it has been 2 decades, 20 years, since the last F-Zero, being GX. In Japan, it's been 19 years since Climax. The point is, it's been a very, very long time. So long that many people watching this video may not have been born since the last F-Zero game came out. And F-Zero is just a very important series to me. I adore every single one. I definitely have my preferences to which ones I prefer. And going by that, the original Super Nintendo one? Not one of my favorites. I adore F-Zero X, that's probably my overall favorite. GX, of course, is fantastic too. But the original one, it was very impressive for the time. So it was a Super Nintendo launch title alongside Mario World, and while that game was giving you this sort of, just a standard 2D view, F-Zero was seemingly giving us 3D on the 16-bit console with Mode 7, and it was very impressive. However, it also came at the cost of being a single-player-only game, and so whenever I come back to F-Zero Super Nintendo, I'll play through a couple too, but I never adored the controls, I never adored just playing on my own. And it wasn't until Super Mario Kart came along where the Super Nintendo really got its big multiplayer racer. So this is definitely a very important game. It started the series, it was a big Super Nintendo launch title, but I honestly don't have a huge attachment to the original one. And so when F-Zero 99 was revealed and it was just the Super Nintendo game, I was like, oh buddy, why wasn't it X? Why didn't they try and theme it off GX or make something new? But I was a fool. I was a fool, viewers. I've been playing this game constantly since yesterday. As in, I cannot put it down. It is worth saying this isn't just the Super Nintendo game. It certainly looks like it, but they've rebuilt everything in 3D. It's much smoother, and you can see some polygons every now and then. So while the ships still have that sort of 2D sprite look to them, it is actually in full 3D, and it feels a little bit different too. But what really makes F-Zero 99 my favorite multiplayer game in years is just how well it works. I have been begging for F-Zero to adopt the 99 format since Tetris 99, because I've always thought it makes sense. Just this huge death battle, everyone just bashing against each other, trying to get towards the goal, knocking each other off the stage. That is exactly what this is. And, I did think, would it be too hectic? But really, no. The only time it's really hectic is when you all jump off the starting platform onto the racetrack, and then it's just this huge merge of flying vehicles. But once you start to, get a distance from each other, you really do get a lot of breathing room, and suddenly the mechanics of having everyone in the same space make a lot of sense. Because when you bump into each other, these little orbs fall off, and you can collect them and get this little boost meter, and if you're really far behind, you can get this sort of almost like a bullet bill kind of catch-up. So, why is that good? F-Zero is usually a game about skill. Why would stuff like rubber banding be good for this kind of thing? And that is where the 99 formula really rears its head. Because skill plays a big part in this game. However, there's also a bit of luck in there, and the luck is what makes it very, very addictive. That's the one more game kind of format. Because you can be the best racer in the world. However, even if you are pulling off all these tricks, when you're in first place, these little bomb cars appear, and they make you have to make wider turns to avoid them. You have to sort of spin into them if you can. The spin is a cooldown thing. In fact, the spin comes from F-Zero X. It's really cool to have it in the Super Nintendo game. But because you're the best racer on the field, you're in first place, you're very much tested for that. And that's what makes F-Zero 99 very accessible. Someone who's never played F-Zero before could make a brilliant comeback just by building up all those little orbs while being at the back of the line and zooming towards the finish line right at the end. Skilled players will probably win, but you definitely start to feel yourself getting better. It's not intimidating. I find a lot of, especially F-Zero GX, this game here, this is a very tricky game. If you don't learn it, you probably won't have a great time with it. Whereas F-Zero 99, I feel like you can just keep going in and in and in. I definitely have exploded many a time, because that's also a big part of F-Zero. It's not just about, getting first place. It's about just finishing the race. Because if your gauge depletes, your car just blows up. And sometimes it's just good to play it safe and not even think about getting first place. Because let's say you are in the top 3 and your meter is just beeping, or you're very close to depleting it. You could boost and risk it, but if your meter's gone and someone bumps into you, you are out of the race. You're going to come in like 80th place, even though you were in 3rd place, because everyone else can finish the race and you can't. So occasionally I do get a bit cocky and I think, okay, I can use this boost, I can just get over there, and that risk sometimes isn't worth it. It's a brilliant risk-reward. And there was this one time where I was like right at the finish line, and I stupidly boosted, someone bumped into me, and I think I must have been on the line, and it didn't count. And I was like, man, let's go again. And that's how it always goes. If I get 10th place, like, oh, I can do better than that. If I get 70th place, I can do better than that. If I explode, let's do it again, I can do better than that. That is, the constant will to better yourself that made Tetris 99 so addictive. And I do feel that's kind of been lacking from the other 99 games. Pac-Man 99, I thought was a brilliant game. However, it does start to feel very samey the more you do it. You usually have the same sort of routines, the same sort of build-up, the same startup. Mario 35, you're running through the same levels. Most people chose 1-1s. You're just always building up very slowly together. Whereas F-Zero 99, it is always different. The competition is different. Your skill set is different. You can learn the tracks, but that's still not going to guarantee that every round's going to be the same. And it's also interesting too how your special gauge, certain usage of it will definitely better what you can get out of it. Because it basically allows you to make those crazy sharp turns in an instant. So you could use your super gauge immediately, which is a smart thing to do with resources, because that way you're not wasting any other orbs that you could potentially pick up. Or you can hold on to it until you get to those wild turns, and they'll just make that way faster for you and guarantee that you'll get in a higher position. There's so many layers of depth in here. And that is what makes me want to keep playing over and over again. I've literally not put this game down. Every waking chance I have, I'm playing F-Zero 99. I have heard the consensus that, like, oh, this is like F-Zero's Federation Force moment. I could not disagree more. Federation Force was a different style of game. It was a co-op shooter. That's never been what Metroid has been. F-Zero has always been a racing game. This is taking an actual F-Zero game and amplifying the addiction factor by 100. Even though the Super Nintendo game is not my favorite, I don't think I've had more fun with an F-Zero game than 99, and I adore this series. It definitely feels like they're gauging interest in building more F-Zero. It feels like they're doing that across the board. They're probably gauging interest in Paper Mario with Thousand Year Door. They're probably gauging interest in another code. But F-Zero in particular, it is wild to see how many people are playing an F-Zero game. At any point, you can jump in, and there will be 99 players just waiting for you immediately. You just click play, and there are 99 people at any possible moment. I don't know how many people have downloaded this game, but I think it's fair to say that it's probably the most played F-Zero game already, and it's a day old. And that's a brilliant thing, because when eventually a brand new, from the ground up F-Zero game comes along, it will have that audience. I think there's probably some casual Switch owners that see they have a free racing game on the eShop and they think, I'll give it a go. They may not know what F-Zero is, and it's very good at easing you in too, because it starts off as like F-Zero 25, then F-Zero 50, and that's all against CPUs before fully throwing you into the 99-player online mode. So it gives you a chance to learn it in a very clever way. And I'm also a big fan of the alternate modes as well. So Tetris 99 has a bunch of different modes. You've got the regular Tetris 99, you've got Team Battle, you've got the Elemental Battle. There's a bunch of different ways to play that game. But the problem is, most people only play the core mode. And so when you ever try playing the other ones, you'll get maybe 30 or 40 human players, and then the rest are CPUs. But the way F-Zero does it is it rotates what the mode is. There's a timer constantly going. Sometimes it's a team battle, sometimes it's a mini-cup, sometimes it's a Grand Prix. And by the way, Grand Prix are great, because you've got to survive consecutive rounds, so you really have to play it safe, or risk it all every round. And if you don't do it, you're kicked out, which I adore. I think it's a really cool way of doing it. But it keeps the modes populated, which is the important thing. And, everything is still just core racing. It never alternates far from that. But, the team mode is basically, you're all racking up points together. So if you're able to finish a lap ahead of the blue team, you get more points. If you whack into the blue team, you get more points. And it just tallies all the points up that every player had at the end and just gives you, like, your team score. So it's still just the core racing, but it's a different way of doing it. And so that's partly why I think it works really well, and Tetris probably should have done something similar. Because it definitely consolidates things in a great way, and it all just feeds back in this constant loop. There's like 3 different ways of building your score here. You've got like your normal leveling system, like Tetris 99 or Pac-Man has, but you've also got your skill gauge, and this takes a mechanic from F-Zero, being the rival mechanic. It will take a bunch of players that are around your skill level in the race, and if you're able to beat them in the race, as in get ahead of them, you'll get more points. But if you can't beat any of them, you'll lose a few points. So that is also a really cool way of implementing that mechanic with real human players. But you also have different vehicle skins to unlock. You can customize your avatar. You can do a ton of different things. And it just feels like everything is always building. That's also part of why it's so addictive. It's not just the core game. It's all the elements surrounding that game. And there's also 4 different vehicle types to choose from, so if you're struggling, I would suggest playing around with them. The regular Blue Falcon is very like, that's just kind of your all-rounder vehicle. But you've got some which can, they can recharge a lot faster. You've got some that don't recharge very fast, but are much faster and do better turns. So if you're very serious, that's probably going to be the vehicle for you. But if you're more of a casual player, that's going to be a bit too intimidating. And you can win with any vehicle, that's the thing. The luck factor can definitely weigh in your favor, but it has to be merged with your skill as well. So, I just adore F-Zero 99. I think it's a perfect fit for this formula. I think F-Zero has always been, it's always been a battle. It's always been a death race. And it's just such a natural transition to put it into this 99 formula. I do hope in the future we get a ground-up F-Zero. I can't say I'm over the moon that it's a Super Nintendo game, but I've never admired the Super Nintendo game this much. I've always said that Tetris 99 is among my favorite Switch games, and it ranks upon Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. And now I'm feeling that F-Zero 99 ranks upon Tears of the Kingdom. It's just moment-to-moment fun. There's never downtime. There's never a moment where I'm thinking, oh, this track again. It just always feels good. It takes such a solid game and amplifies it to the max, which is what the 99 series is all about, really. And hopefully people give it a go, because I'm sure they're looking at these stats and thinking, is it time to greenlight a brand new F-Zero? Personally speaking, I would take this any day over a remaster. It's a new game, it's a new concept. If GX got remastered, yes, I would love it, I'd buy it. If it had online play, I'd play it for a long time, I'm sure. But there's something so special about this, and I would not trade it for the world. So let me know what you're thinking about F-Zero 99. I just want to play more right now, to be honest. Just looking at this title screen, I want to dive back in. But yeah, this really is one of the best surprises of the year for me. And, whoa, F-Zero's back. We have a new F-Zero game. There's no longer been a 20-year lull. It's crazy to say that. Man, thank you for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye.